Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again. Time for another brilliant lecture on Native American literature at Sisseton, Wahpeton College in lovely, beautiful, crowded downtown Agency Village, South Dakota. And now, the man, the myth, the legend, the brilliant Professor Victor Singingeagle. Yay!
Oh, the wonderful thing about tiggers. Our tiggers are little things. Their heads are made of rubber. Their tails are made from springs.
Uh-oh, stop messing around. Right. Okay, now without any further ado, let's get on to the status cards and blood quantums. So here is a picture of the new certificate of Indian status. This is the new one. Here's the old one. Now, as you can see, it's definitely problematic, is it not? Yes, it is. It's because this was a laminated piece of paper, and anybody could just copy one of these and make their own, which a lot of times people did and made their own fake status cards. I think this one here is just a spoof because I think Justin Bieber had claimed he was part native or something up in Canada. And so the people just took off with it and ran with it and made fun of him. And we're going to get to the make fun part in a second. But let's get back to this. This is the new one. The new one, which almost looks like these passports cards that we get issued here in the States, where you've got your big picture. Anyway, I'm talking too much. Remember that this is one of the discussion forums that I hope you will reply to. Make sure. So, as you might guess, the status card might be quite problematic. Frequently appears in First Nations literature. Comment on this. So, why am I bothering you with this? It's because in our today's lesson plan, we got to talk about this. It goes all the way back in Canada. They have this really weird system to define what is an Indian or a Native, First Nations up in Canada, they call them nowadays. But they used to call them Indians. Way back in 1876, the Canadian Parliament passed the Indian Act. And one of the major features of it has to do with debating and trying to figure out what are we going to do with all these Indians in our country? And how can we diminish their numbers? Because they're dependent on the Canadian government, and we can't have that. How can we cut down their numbers administratively? So they came up with this idea of dividing up Indians in certain categories who are status and non-status Indians in something called Métis, and it was really complicated, but the short version is they made it so red tapey and so irritating that a lot of Indians just lost their status. Let's say you're, especially for women, it discriminated a lot against women in that if you are a native, full-blood native woman, let's say you're Cree, and you marry a non-native or even a native who does not have status, let's say American Indian, me, and I move up to Canada and I marry a Cree woman who's got a status card. She would lose her status as an Indian. The government would say, okay, you and your husband are not Indian anymore, and your kids are not Indian, or maybe your kids will be Métis, which is a French word, just means mixed. I forgot how to say it in Spanish. Not mezcla, mezcla, or mezcaler. I forgot how to say it in Spanish. Darn, my Spanish has gotten bad. Anyway, a bunch of Canadian women got together and sued the government and got the Parliament to pass a bill called C-31. And back in the day, in the early 2000s, you heard a lot of Native women talking about their C-31 status being restored, and a lot of them got money back from the government, which was awesome. So they were taking that money and going crazy with it and going gambling and buying stuff, but never mind, we don't need to get into that right now. Let's jump on down. Other ways, according to this 1876 Indian Act up in Canada of losing your status is getting paid off by the Canadian or provincial government. That is, the government say, if you agree to give up your status, we'll give you some money. And they usually gave it to Indians who were the most, how do I want to say this? They're the most down and out Indians who had no money, no hope, and they were addicted hopelessly to various substances. And the government would say, hey, here's some money. And they take it and they lose their status and they take all the money that they got from the government and run off and squander it and still be poor. We know this. Another way to lose your status back in those days was if you got a college degree. Yep. Can you imagine that? You go to college to help better your people. Up in First Nations University, the woman elder up there used to say that education is our new buffalo. But if you got a degree, you lose status. And keep in mind, a lot of this was all the way up into the year 2013. Let's keep going. How about if you got ordained as a priest or a minister? Lose your status. So finally, there was this court case called Daniels versus Canada in 2013. This all the way up in 2013. They had to deal with this mess. And so the new court case up there pretty much nullifies a lot of that baloney that was going up there in Canada now. I need my Pejuta Shapa. Bear with me for a second. One more. That's my addiction. Now, how about America's weird system? I don't know which one is worse. There was an old 1705 Indian blood law. I think that was up in Virginia or one of the colonial states. And the 1934 Indian Reorganization Act was kind of modeled after it. And the act is saying you got to be at least a quarter Indian. That means one of your grandparents has to be native if you want to call yourself an Indian. And again, it has to do with this idea of how do we get people off the government dole? Because they were saying, oh, these Indians are just doing nothing but sucking on the teat of the federal government. We can't have that. So we want to terminate Indians. This idea, they called it termination. How can we get Indians off the government dole? And there was another added benefit to this that oftentimes is overlooked, you see. This is this idea where they would issue something called a CDIB, which stands for Certificate of Degree of Indian Blood. Another thing called blood quantum. And there were all these really complicated laws. But a CDIB, the government could come in and land on your reservation and say, okay, we're issuing out CDIBs. And they'd give some Indians the CDIB, and other Indians who made them mad, they didn't give them. And so then they'd wander off and go do government stuff. And the Indians will start fighting amongst themselves and being jealous amongst themselves. That's by design, okay? Now, I'm starting to mess up. It's kind of these days, I want to say it's kind of these days up to the tribes. And by that, I mean that there was so much litigation and there was such a big mess. Let me pull up something. There was a tribe called the Clamoya, which in modern days they call them the Klamaths. Let me type in, who are the Klamath Indians? Who are the Klamath? There we go. Let's just type in, who are the Klamath tribes? I don't want AI. I want an image. I want a map. Well, okay, here we go. The Klamath, the Modoc, the Yahushkin. All these guys lived on the Oregon-California border. Mostly, that's what I'm looking for, in the Klamath Basin. It's not giving me much of a good map. A good U.S. map. Never mind, we don't need to. I'll just use USA map. How's that? Google Maps. Google Maps. I know this is a little bit weird for me to be messing with maps. I don't care about the West Acres Mall. Where is Fargo? Right. This is home, where the star is. There's Klamath Falls. Well, there was a bunch of Indians living out here in this area, right on the border, California, Oregon. They were called Klamaths. There were also some Modocs, and the Modocs and the Klamaths used to fight a lot. They didn't like each other too much. But never mind, we don't need to talk about that. We got to go back to the subject at hand. That is, I believe it was in the 1950s, the U.S. government, in its broad, infinite wisdom, decided to terminate the Klamath tribe. And they even terminated the Modocs for a little while as well, if I remember right. I could be wrong about that. And this was from the 40s all the way up to the 1960s. Terminate means you are no longer an Indian. These people are effectively extinct, like we're dinosaurs or something, right? So there's that big problem. And they didn't start resolving this mess until probably the late 90s, I want to say, where the Klamath got their tribe status back. And now they've actually opened up a casino up there, too. And you'll see this especially on the West Coast. You got these little itty-bitty tribes that have lost their Indian status with the government, and they litigate, they sue to get their status back, and they get itty-bitty bits of land, and they rebuild their reservation and try to rebuild their language and culture, and they hire anthropologists and linguists to help them relearn their language. It's really cool, but never mind, we got to go back to this. So, these days, it's kind of up to the tribes in the states. It's kind of a mishmash depending on who the tribe is. Some tribes still want 1/4 Indian blood if you want to enroll. Other tribes say, well, you have to have a special claim of membership to this tribe, usually through relatives or something. And of course, I believe it's a Cherokee. All you need is lineal descent. You need some proof of lineal descent. I am descended from whoever. And if you can prove it, document it, there you go. There's some more problems. I put on here, what about black Indians? The freedmens? How about Mexicans? What about, I already talked about the terminated Indians, but there's still some that are still fighting to get their recognition back. How about runaways? That would be my people. Urban Indians, which is also oftentimes interchangeable. So this is a big problem because we have item C to worry about. How am I doing on time? I bet I spoke for 17 minutes. 16 minutes and 26 seconds. Let me stop it here, and we're going to continue in the next video. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.